Hey everybody, Chris Burton from Board on a Thursday. I'm going to be talking E3 today, switching it up a little bit, specifically Microsoft's conference, which just ended about a little over an hour ago. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First off, they unveiled the name of their new console, which will be the Xbox One X. It was previously going under the name of Project Scorpio. It'll be released on November 7th for a price tag of just under $500. So they open with Forza, which is a typical thing for them to do when they release a new console or they want to show off some piece of hardware. They go to Forza, or they go to PlayStation kind of does this too, a Gran Turismo. So it's just these racing games are really good to show off graphics, weather elements, stuff like that. So they hit on that first. I'm not a big Forza or driving, not big into driving games, so it looked awesome. I mean, it looks sweet, but I'll probably never play it. Full disclosure before I do anything else, I currently do all of my gaming on PlayStation, so my views might be a little biased towards PlayStation, but I was anticipating Xbox's conference, so I was hoping to see some things, and I'll get into whether or not they reach that bar. So another thing they showed off was, well, first let's get into the non-exclusives that they showed off. So they showed off Assassin's Creed, Metro, Exodus. Then they showed off, later on, they showed off Shadow of War and Anthem, which is a BioWare game, which looks amazing. That was the one game that I saw that just blew me away. And it made me feel better that it's going to also come out on PlayStation. So, as far as exclusives, they had some exclusives that are straight console exclusives. It will solely be on Xbox. And then they had a bunch that were launch exclusives, which means that later on PlayStation will probably get their hands on these. So the ones that they showed that were straight exclusives were Forza, which, like I said earlier, looked great. State of Decay 2. This is the one game that I feel that I really wish PlayStation had a market for. I really wish that they had a game. Years ago, they were supposed to get H1Z1. That's never come about. So, seeing State of Decay and how that kind of plays out, that's the one game that I saw today that's exclusive to Xbox that I was like, man, I wish PlayStation had that. Another one was Sea of Thieves. I think the Darwin Project was also Xbox exclusive. That game looks really cool. That looks like a really cool game to play, with friends. It kind of looked like just kind of the way it looked initially. It kind of looked like Evolve a little bit. Like you're in this tight space. I know it's completely different because everybody's fighting everybody, but Crackdown 3, which is also a launch title, it's going to come out the same day as the system. I didn't really think anything about it while they were showing off the footage. I played the original Crackdown. I thought it was pretty good. Nothing to get overly hyped about. But one of the guys on IGN said something that made sense to me. He said, this game comes out in a few months and you didn't see anybody playing it. You just saw kind of like a highlight reel. You didn't see any clips of actual gameplay footage, whereas you saw, Shadow of Mordor gameplay. You saw Anthem, which doesn't even come out till next year. You saw actual gameplay footage of that. So that is a little odd to me that they have chosen not to show actual gameplay footage. So those were the main ones. They had another game, and some of these I might mess up as far as if they're strictly exclusive to Xbox or whether they'll come out later for PlayStation. But Black Desert looked pretty cool. I think it's an MMORPG, and Ori. I'm not a big fan of Ori, but I know a lot of people liked the original, so that's a pretty good title. So just my initial reactions off the games that they showed, there wasn't other than State of Decay 2, there wasn't anything as a PlayStation owner that I felt I've got to get an Xbox to play this game. State of Decay probably came the closest, but I don't know if I mean, I'm gonna have to see reviews on it because, you know, Xbox, their problem right now is lack of exclusives, lack of really good exclusives. They have Halo, they have Gears of War, but the other exclusives that they churn out haven't been well received. They canceled the one, I forget the name of it's leaving me right now, but where you basically, it kind of looks like a Final Fantasy type game or Devil May Cry. And then Recore, that game got terrible reviews. It was not received well. So you look on the PlayStation side, and they've got, you know, Last of Us, they've got God of War, Uncharted, Bloodborne, Neo just came out. Both those games are, you know, all of those games were highly touted by critics and, you know, players alike. Also Horizon, that came out a few months ago. So they've got to make up a lot of ground exclusives-wise. And at the beginning of the conference, he said something. He said that 22 of their games were exclusives. Well, if this is the 22, and these are the ones that you're pushing the future of your gaming console on, then they're in trouble. Because this is not going to move the needle as far as sales. You know, Sea of Thieves looks pretty cool, but to me, that looks kind of like a... I mean, I'm sure it'll be popular. I just think there's so many open world multiplayer games now that it'll find its niche, but I don't know if it's going to dethrone games like Destiny or, you know, these other open world multiplayer games. You know, even GTA Online is still out there and putting out content. So they're going to have to find their niche, and they're really going to have to, you know, keep updating it with content and doing those things to keep that player base engaged. As far as the non-exclusives, the biggest question mark for me is why did they spent the most time on the non-exclusives. So they showed a lot of gameplay footage of Assassin's Creed, Shadow of War, and then Anthem, but none of those are exclusives. So I'm questioning what their kind of thought process was on that. They closed the ceremony with Anthem, which is also going to be on PlayStation. So if Sony's smart, tomorrow when they have their conference, I expect them to close with probably God of War or The Last of Us, if they have some new footage on that. Close with something that you can only get on your system. You know, that, to me, that's going to sell consoles more than, you know, pushing out a game that you can play somewhere else and for cheaper. I mean, if the way I look at it is, if I'm choosing between two consoles, and yeah, I have 4K gaming on the Xbox One X, but the Pro has got, you know, it's a step up from my PS4 right now, and I can play just about every single game that I want to play except for maybe one or two. Then I'm gonna go with the PlayStation. The fact that it has 6 teraflops or whatever it is, it doesn't make up for the fact that it doesn't have Uncharted, God of War, Last of Us, you know, Bloodborne, all these different games that are exclusive to PlayStation right now. Another thing that they chose to do that, you know, when I was hearing people talk about it, they thought was a big deal, was backwards compatibility. I'm not a big believer in backwards compatibility. I think it's way overhyped. I think, to me, there's too many games. There's too many good games out right now for me to play all of those, and those are current games. So I don't have time to go back into the catalog of, you know, PlayStation 1 games, or, you know, if they did it for PlayStation, or in this case Xbox games, and replay old Xbox original games. That I just don't. I think that's one of those things that people say they want, and then when it actually comes down to it, they might play 1 or 2 games here and there, but it's not a sustainable thing. Like, I don't think people are and if you have people constantly going back into your old library of games, then that should show you that your current offering of games isn't up to par. So again, I don't think Microsoft has learned its lesson. The lesson is, and they wonder why, you know, everybody knows that they're getting beat pretty handily by PlayStation in this generation as far as selling consoles, selling games, and things like that. And the reason is because they don't have any exclusives that are going to move the needle in their favor. God of War for PlayStation is a system seller. Halo is a system seller for Xbox, but they don't. Other than that, and Gears of War, they don't have anything consistent that you can look forward to, and they're not making any new IPs that are really good. You know, think about the PlayStation exclusives that have come out in just the last couple of years that are new IPs. Bloodborne, you know, Horizon, Last of Us came out a few years ago. These are brand new IPs that they're constantly getting this new content and these new franchises where Xbox just isn't, and that's the difference. And until Xbox learns that, or Microsoft learns that, they're going to have a tough time catching up. I didn't see anything today that would, you know, when you go in that first day to buy an Xbox One X and you're going to fork down $500 and then buy a game, so you're going to spend close to, you know, if you want to buy another controller, you're going to buy, you know, spend over $600 for what, Crackdown 3? I mean, I'm not paying $600 to play Crackdown. Everything else you can already play is, and I know it's going to look a lot better. I get that, but is it? But if you don't have a 4K TV, are you really getting the most out of the Xbox One X? I don't think you are, and I don't think enough people out there have 4K TVs to really take full advantage of its capabilities. So I thought overall, when the conference started and they started off with, you know, Forza and how good it looked, and then they showed Battlegrounds. I was really excited for that, but then I learned that it's a limited exclusive. You know, it's got a window of exclusivity. Then it started kind of losing its interest, and then as the conference went on, and they just kept showing all these games that I can play on my PlayStation, my feeling of needing an Xbox dwindled. So I don't think they went out, and I don't think they convinced people why they should go out and spend $500 on a new system. I think they showed off some good things, but they're going to have to show off something better than Crackdown 3 or State of Decay 2. I'm excited for State of Decay 2, but it doesn't match up to, you know, what PlayStation is offering. And Nintendo's in a good spot here too, because all they have to do is keep making games that fit their audience, and then let PlayStation and Xbox kind of battle it out for that middle ground. Nintendo's always going to have its loyal customers. If Nintendo could start getting some more of those AAA titles that convert over to Switch, you know, like your Overwatch, Call of Duty, Battlefield, you know, Battlefront, if those games start coming over to the Nintendo Switch, then Nintendo's going to be in a really good spot. But I just don't feel Xbox did what it needed to do. I feel like it I don't know if I would say it played it safe, but right now they're just struggling to get new IPs and new content out there, and that is a very big problem. So I don't want to give it a grade yet because I want to see what Sony and Nintendo do. But I'll have another episode where I talk about Bethesda's press conferences later tonight. So I'll be reviewing that later on. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy or off base. So like I said earlier, I'm a little biased towards PlayStation, but you know, I'm always open to if Xbox would have came out today and had, you know, a new Halo coming out, some kind of DLC for Gears of War, you know, all this other stuff, and then those were going to be launch titles or, you know, things in the near future, then it would have got me a lot more excited and possibly, you know, in the market for an Xbox One X. So, like I said, let me know what you think, and look forward to those episodes coming up later where I go more in depth on some of these other conferences, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.